Coming up on TekThing, Eufy RoboVac versus Roomba, Corsair's H110i Extreme Performance Liquid Cooler, where overclocked Ryzen 7 Galaxy 8 is coming, and is all your internet up for sale. Thanks, Congress. All coming up on TekThing. Thank you, patrons. Without your support via patreon.com/TekThing, we wouldn't be able to make the show for you each and every week. Join the crew that makes TekThing possible at patreon.com/TekThing.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
Nope, we went straight for nothing but fun today.
Well, there's a fly in the studio right now, and it's driving me a little bit bonkers.
No.
So we might have some fun today.
Us. If we suddenly start wailing, like, ah! It's because the fly has flown through. Oh, there it is. Things
it's
the
so
size
annoying.
of a marmot.
Hopefully it doesn't land on one of the cameras, but if it does, we'll show you what it looks like. It's super fun.
Fly cam!
So anyway.
Oh my goodness. So much going on this week. Starting with the day after we record this, the Galaxy S8.
Yay!
There's a video.
There's a video.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
8.
Oh. Oh, look, it's a drone. Okay. How fancy.
8.
It's an eyeball. And that reminds me of Lemony Snicket.
We're done.
Okay. Well, that was descriptive, wasn't it?
You know, it reminds me. It's coming.
Yeah.
We really hope it doesn't light on fire. But
yeah.
I went not. There.
I guess we'll see how it goes.
I was reading an article and I refused to finish reading it because they said they were going to like resell the 7s.
I read that too. Yeah. Yeah, they're going to refurbish the Galaxy S8s and resell them as refurbished models.
S7s.
S8s? Yeah.
S7s. F7s were the flaming phones.
Yeah, the flaming ones. Yeah, that's what I read. Yeah. So that's good times. Anyway, moving on, that's going to happen tomorrow as of day of recording. Yeah. So we should have more announcements and information to share with you on our social networks regarding that. Moving on, we also got a Twitter message, right?
Well, actually, Andy Rubin tweeted out. He's the co-founder of Android, which was bought by Google in 2005. Tweeted a tease of Essential's first Android phone. Essential being in
cool.
one of the companies under his playground hardware concept VC investment group thing.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what that phone turns out to be.
Yeah, me too. Also, we got some information from LastPass. Apparently, LastPass is securing a new vulnerability that they just found, which was by the Google security researcher. His name is Tavis Ormandy. Keep an eye on their blog. Keep an eye out for an update on your LastPass browser extension. If you are updating your extension, it should automatically update whenever you close out of your browser. Yeah. But luckily, this vulnerability was found. As far as we know, it wasn't being used in the wild, so luckily they got it before it got bad.
And apparently it's kind of complicated.
Yeah.
So they're on it.
They usually are.
You can always launch from the LastPass vault.
Yes. Yes, you can.
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about overclocking. You use LastPass, I use LastPass.
Oh yeah.
I'm torn between being delighted that they're like, hey, we found a problem, everyone should know, and being like, because I know there's a lot of problems and a lot of tools I use that we never hear about.
Yeah.
You know, under these sort of like, and additional security,
secret bug bounties. Oh yeah.
And you go to the bottom and it turns out we gave away the passwords, but we changed them. You what? I'm exaggerating slightly, but I'm thinking of one particular security flaw. In any case, let's talk about overclocking the Ryzen 1800X
yes,
and the Corsair H110i.
Okay.
I did not want to worry about thermals.
Yeah.
Like I just did not want to worry about heat at all when I was building the 1800X. And I haven't done any liquid cooling in a while, so I asked Corsair for one of their H110is.
Yes,
and of course it has that crazy new, you see it in the build video, we're just laughing about it, because it's basically like 2 eye hooks that clamp the cooler down to the motherboard. We're both like, look, and the thing, and the...
It's so cute.
It's so cute. It's actually really, really easy to set up.
Yeah.
So the H110i dual 240mm fans, a big radiator. I actually ended up buying a new case to fit it, and because I wanted USB 3 ports on the front. I finally realized it just...
USB 3 on the front is awesome.
I've been recycling old cases for a while, and I was finally like...
Don't we all?
I do. I mean, that, you've...
I still have a case out there from when I was in college. It's old. I should probably donate it, actually, because that's like a decade old now that I think about it.
I wonder if I can get my compact portable 2 to boot. Speaking of computers from college.
Yeah, seriously.
Which may or may not. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It is. They are very big fans. So you know, it's sealed, so you don't have to worry about spilling liquid anywhere. Installation is bone simple. You know, you mount the fans, you mount the cooler, you plug in the USB, you plug in the power jacks, and you're good to go. And then the Link software gets installed to set up the LED on the pump, because you know me, I'm all about the stylish colors. Yeah, we use static colors. You can cycle through 2 colors. You can cycle through 3 colors. My personal favorite is temperature-based.
Ooh.
And the factory settings, you can tweak them, is 20 is green, 40 C is yellow, and 60 degrees Celsius is red.
Oh, smart. Okay.
You can configure it however you want. I kind of like the idea of, like, you know, green, yellow, red. Although the thermals on the 1800X kind of start at the edge of yellow and go straight into red when you start hammering on it. So
gotcha.
I'll have to tweak those.
Yeah.
You can do cycling stuff, and it goes from like blue to purple to red. It's very soothing.
That's cool.
When you're running benchmarks at 2 in the morning. Yeah, I'm over LEDs on everything. I just want to say I love the LEDs in the motherboard I have, because it's so odd to see like ground effects lighting on a motherboard, but there's too many LEDs in this computer. In any case, the biggest part of Link, though, is it lets you control the giant fan action. They have quiet and performance and balance in the middle. Some quick thoughts on Ryzen 7 performance. After running a bunch of 3D Mark and a bunch of rendering files and Handbrake, which is a benchmark that is close to my grubby little heart, ZOMG multi-threaded performance joy. So it's $350 right now for a 7700K versus $500 for Ryzen or AMD's 1800X. So for $150 over the cost of a 6700K or 7700K, my Handbrake rendering goes from 95 frames per second and about 10 minutes for my test file to 150 to 160 frames per second and 6-minute render times.
Damn. That's fast.
Yeah, and on one hand, and I did 1080p gaming, and it didn't really bother me.
That's cool.
Probably because I was still so giddy at how fast files were rendering. So if you're doing multi-threaded stuff, the Ryzen 7 is killer.
That's awesome.
Overclocking helps, not a huge amount. Running the Ryzen 7 at 4,000 hertz, which is a pretty easy overclock for me to get to. That's about a 10% overclock. That ended up being about an 8% boost in that Handbrake test. Took the render time down from 6 minutes to 5.5 minutes, about 30 seconds off a 6-minute render. On 3D Mark, I saw a boost of 5% in the physics on gaming. I saw no improvement on graphics because the test bed GPU I have is absolutely the bottleneck on 3D gaming performance on that.
All right.
It is aged and it is slow, and I'll have to replace it, but not this week because my wife's already about to kill me. I'm still working on memory overclocking. The consensus is that Ryzen 7 takes way better advantage of higher memory speeds than we've seen with the Intel chipsets over the last few years. In fact, I think about a year ago, we talked a big article where it's basically like, memory overclocking, what's the point if you're running Intel? AMD, they had one of the benchmarks they showed with a GTX 1080 max settings, and by overclocking the memory, they went from 92.5 frames per second with 2133 megahertz DDR4 to 107.4 frames per second with 3200 megahertz DDR4. That is a 16% bump in performance. That is
pretty big.
Significant.
Yeah.
Whether that or not that'll show up on Handbrake, I don't know. We need more higher speed Ryzen certified memory modules.
Yes.
AMD's like, we have observed good results from 2933, 3200, and 3500 MTS rates with 16 gigabyte kits based on the Samsung BDI memory chips. I'm stumbling through that because I've read it so many times. But the Corsair memory I tracked down, which should actually be the Samsung BDI memory chips, wouldn't DOCP natively to 3200. That's when you have it automatically read the settings on the RAM.
Right.
I got it to manually overclock to 3200, but it would be like 3 times out of 4 it would boot fine, and the 4th it would be like, press F1! Overclocking failure, prepare to die. So, BIOS update expected in early May should greatly improve memory overclocking. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about that. A lot of people in a lot of large motherboard manufacturers looking forward to May. I'll have Ryzen 1700 numbers next week. It runs a base clock of 3,000 hertz. I will be very curious to see how much that goes up, and I'm going to bolt that giant cooler on there. Because if I can run a $330 part at 4,000 hertz, all of a sudden the overclocking gets that much more interesting. So getting back to the Corsair H110i, I was delighted to find that the quiet profile was pretty much as fast as the performance profile in the sense of, or as efficient cooling.
Okay.
Quiet ran the two 240mm fans at under 1,200 RPM, with about 45 to 50 dB on my meter, compared to the performance mode, which was running a full-on, like, 2,200 to 2,600 RPM. I want to say 2,165 was the number that stuck in my head, because it's just sitting there watching the RPM count for your fans. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
That's performance.
Whoa.
Sounds exciting.
That was over 60 dB from my measurement distance. So
wow.
Going from performance mode to quiet mode took like 12 plus dB off the noise level, which is a huge reduction.
Yeah.
And the thermal difference on the die was about 2 degrees. So 74.5 degrees Celsius maxed out in performance mode and 76.5 degrees Celsius maxed out in quiet mode. I'll keep an eye. I'll keep playing with this because as we expect, my understanding is that we should see some increased accuracy in the reporting on Hardware Monitor and other tools, and also as the BIOS gets updated. It's been funny to watch because I'm sitting there. I'm like, because you've got two giant 240mm fans spinning flat out. And it's not inside a case while I was doing that. It's loud. And then you go to quiet mode and it's really, really quiet. And I'm like, well, there's going to be a 2-degree difference.
Yay!
Yay! And it didn't throttle down on the RPMs or on the hertz that the cores were running at.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, did a lot of benchmarking.
Cool.
I just want everybody right now to take a moment and think about Alan Malventano and Ryan Schrout over at PCPer.com and say thank you to them and everyone else who reviews hardware for a living, because
dude, that's hard work, man.
Benchmarking is hard work.
Yeah.
And they do it all the time.
Well, I appreciate them very, very much.
I do too. It's fast.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, today's ThreatWire brief is all about the Senate vote to remove FCC privacy rules and the impending vote in the House. We don't currently know what the final outcome will be, and I expect by the time you see this, the outcome will be highly known and available. That's almost like a sentence.
Almost like a sentence.
Almost like a sentence. Yeah, and check our social networks, or just go to Twitter or Facebook.com/TekThing.
Yeah.
Or at Patrick Norton, or
at Snubs.
Because I'm sure if this gets passed, we'll be ranting, because I think both of us find the idea of having protections for privacy for citizens to allow large ISPs to sell our entire browsing history kind of offensive. On the flip side, go VPNs! Woo!
And I will mention this, the FCC rules that were created last year, they were supposed to pass and go into an effect in early March. But since somebody yelled at me on like Twitter or something to clarify this, I will clarify it for you. So yes, it was supposed to go into effect in early March, but then Ajit Pai was the FCC chairman. He decided to stay those rules, which I talked about on ThreatWire, my other show. And now they voted to just kill them completely, so kill those privacy rules. So this is why it's really important to talk about this. So basically, the United States Senate voted to eliminate completely these FCC privacy rules, and by doing so, they could allow ISPs to sell your browsing history to advertisers in the near future. The Senate voted, it was a 50-48 vote, all Republican versus all Democrat, and it was headed by this guy who's the Republican Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona. He wanted to eliminate the rules created by the FCC, which would block an ISP from selling all this data, including like browsing history, to advertisers without permission. So since the vote is now going to the US House of Representatives, and it's also expected to pass there since I believe they also have a Republican hold.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, so this means that Comcast, Verizon, any of the other ones in the US, any ISPs, they could store your information, they could sell it off. It could be as simple as what websites you frequent. It could be what stores you shop at, what dating sites you use, so they could find out about your sexual preference, what political websites you frequent, so they could figure out what your political sightings are, what banking site you use. If you go to Zillow, they could find out if you're in the market for a house and advertise houses at you, and more. And all of this is just, it's merely profit for ISPs. So these regulations.
Profit. What higher motivation has humanity? Look, having spent quality time in East Berlin before the wall came down, I am a huge fan of capitalism. As somebody who had some conversations with people after the Cold War and who had conversations in East Berlin, I'm an even bigger fan of privacy and putting run a VPN.
I'll get to that in a bit.
Okay, sorry, I'm a little torqued up. I'm gonna.
Oh, me too.
So.
So the regulations were originally passed by the FCC last year. That's what I mentioned at the beginning, explicitly ruling that ISPs would need consumer consent to sell any kind of data. And it was going to go into effect on March 2nd on that very date. But since Ajit Pai is the chairman now, he wanted to stay those privacy rules, and then they voted on it. So now it's going to the House, and then after that it goes to the president. But the scary thing about this, and people are like, well, maybe the FCC could just make a new rule in the future, but in this case they can't. So the Senate used something called a Congressional Review Act, or CRA for short, which not only voids those rules that the FCC had made, but it removes the FCC's ability to make rules like that in the future. So even if Ajit Pai isn't the chairman in the future, the new FCC wouldn't be able to make any kind of rules similar to the ones that were going to go into effect on March 2nd. So do we have any privacy protections right now from ISPs? Not really.
Right.
So another thing I wanted to mention with this, I'll wrap it up real quick.
Okay.
The EFF put together a list of other things ISPs can potentially do to you, and also a little take action button, but it's a little late for that. So selling data to marketers, of course, hijacking searches, so they could actually hijack it and make you go directly to a website instead of a search. Snooping through traffic, of course, inserting ads, that's another one that's kind of obvious. Pre-installing software on your phone, recording every URL you visit, injecting undetectable, undeletable tracking cookies in all of your HTTP traffic. All of that stuff is rather creepy. So yeah, I'll put this link in the show notes because they list it out and give a whole bunch of great examples of things that have happened in the past with this too.
Right.
And it's all rather scary. So what do? VPN, like we've mentioned in the past many times. There's plenty of them out there. Just choose one based on what you need for your own personal needs.
Right.
Tor browser, of course, is a good recommendation as well. Yes, there are pros and cons to Tor browsers depending on exit nodes and stuff like that, which we've discussed as well. And HTTPS everywhere, which you can install on regular browsers like Chrome, which is what I use. So
that basically makes sure everything you're doing between your computer and the server, the web page, the whatever you're accessing at the other end, is encrypted by HTTPS.
Exactly. That doesn't keep an ISP from being able to see what site you visit, but they can't see like how long you're there, what pages, or your username and password and stuff like that if it's under HTTPS. So hopefully, as of time of recording, the House has not voted on it. Hopefully, the House rules in favor of consumer privacy protections. That would be great. If they don't, though, we really, really need to pay attention to what's going on and actually, use a VPN. For everybody out there who was just kind of on the fence about it, just do it if you haven't already. Check out hak5.org. Oh, you had a question.
Well,
you look like you do.
Well, I should also point out that one of the things that comes up is telecoms. For example, Comcast or AT&T. Because it is a Republican-held Congress right now. The House and the Senate. But when you look at the top, of the what is it, $14 million, $7 million contributions, like $14 million, $15 million, $14 million in lobbying last year from Comcast. DNC Services Corp, $628,000, $494,000 to Hillary Clinton, Republican, Senate Majority PAC, Democratic Congressional Campaign. It's this is bipartisan, and you need to talk to your Congress critters when something you're passionate about, because they love money. Money makes it easier to get elected. And big companies, I may be naive, but I think big companies expect some favorable treatment in exchange for their big donations. And you'll notice they're donating to everybody because they don't care who's in power.
Of course they are.
So what we have discovered recently again is that lots and lots of phone calls and lots of attention to your congressional representation makes them think about you, hopefully, as much as they think about the companies with the giant checks.
Yeah, and don't wait until like the day that they're voting. Actually call them ahead of time and if you call them every day, like they will pay attention to you. They will.
Call.
So for more
visit.
For more on what's going on with this, check out ThreatWire. That's my other show. It's over at youtube.com/HAK5 or HAK5.org. We talk about security and privacy every single day, and I will put links to the EFF as well as the other article that I posted down in the show notes on this show, so you can find out everything there as well.
You know, if you didn't have something to hide, this wouldn't be such a big deal.
Oh, don't even go there. Do you have cats at home, Patrick?
I have 3 cats.
You have 3?
1 dog, 2 children, 5 chickens, and outdoor cats.
You probably need one of these more than I do.
I don't know why we don't have a robotic vacuum.
Yeah, dude, it has changed my life. I've had a Roomba forever. It's the Roomba 780 or something like that. I'll mention it again plenty of times in this review, but I decided to check out one that is like less than half the cost of the Roomba that I currently own. So this is called the Eufy RoboVac 11. It's a very inexpensive robot vacuum. It's usually $219.99 on the store. I've never seen it on Amazon for higher than that, even though it says $499 here. And it's currently on sale for less than $200, so you can get it for $186.99. I have an iRobot Roomba 780 at home. It was on sale when I bought it. It was like $450 or something like that. So not a bad price at all.
Do you ever run a vacuum, or does the Roomba take care of it all?
Oh, it takes care of everything for me. I have a 2-story little townhome thing, and sometimes I will manually move it upstairs to take care of the top floor, but for the most part that's carpeted, so I just leave it alone because you can't see anything in the carpet. But you can see it on the bottom floor because it's like fake hardwood, so I run it like every day on the fake hardwood because I have cats. The reason why I was asking about cats is because litter gets everywhere on hard floors, hard surfaces. It's annoying. You step on it and then it gets in your socks and your shoes. It's so gross. And then they leave trails of litter all over the house. Anyway,
I'm going to call this an overshare.
So I was totally down to pit a $200 robot vacuum against the Roomba in kind of a fight to the death against cat litter until there's absolutely no litter left on my floor. So I had both of these guys running in my house.
Are you not entertained?
My cats hated it the whole time. But it's very similar in setup. It has 2 side brushes on it. There's also a little brush wheel, and I'll show you a close-up of this so you can see everything going on here. There's also a dust compartment down here, and it's all very plasticky. It's what you would expect from a robot vacuum. It also has those HEPA filters inside of here. HEPA. The allergy filters. So it definitely helps a lot with picking up dust. It also charges off of one of those little charging stations. This one is very similar to the one I have for my Roomba. Just like the Roomba itself, it can find its charging station whenever it needs to at the end of its vacuuming, but it can also charge by itself too. So, for example, if I don't have the charging station available, or if it's in a different room.
You take it to the cabin for the weekend?
Yeah, exactly. I don't have to bring the charging station. I can plug it in directly right here because it has the same little plug that plugs into the charging station. Kind of cool. It also comes with a remote, and this takes 2 AAA batteries, which are also not included. And all the programming is done on the remote, not on the vacuum. So you don't have to press any buttons on here except for the little power button to turn it on.
Do you have to tell these where to go, or do they just wander around like a pool cleaner until all the stuff is gone?
They wander around. It's supposed to be kind of an AI thing where they figure out where the edges are due to their sensors on the front, and they find their way and they pick out the dirty spots and spot clean those if they need to, and then they'll finish up the room and go back to their home.
Okay.
Sometimes they're a little janky and they just focus on one area and clean it 20 times, and then they go back to their home and leave the rest of the house with cat litter everywhere. But in the case of the Eufy, it did quite a good job of covering a room that I would set it in before it went back to its home station or ran out of batteries. You can set schedules on here if you want to, so I could schedule it every 3 days or something like that. You can manually control it too. I had a lot of fun manually controlling it with my cats, and I would just like chase them around. Don't worry, I did not hurt them at all. I was just being really annoying cat mom to my little fur babies because I could. Because sometimes you have to be an annoying mom and smoosh them because they're so adorable. You can also set it to auto run, which just lets it do a room, and then when it's done, it's done. You can do edges only, so it will trace the edges of a room like this square studio that we have here and just focus on those and clean up next to the boards at the bottom. Or you can do a spot clean, which is where it takes circles again and again, like I have here where it's doing my cat litter, and eventually it sucks up everything, and then when it's done, it gives you a nice little tune, and it says, "I'm done." If you want to make it go home, there is a home button on here too if you don't want to wait till it's finished, and then it'll just make its way back. It is rather slow to getting back to its charging station, so at one point I was like, okay, I'm bored of waiting for you, so I just picked it up and put it on the charging station. I didn't need to read directions on how to set a schedule because it's literally so easy. You press the scheduling button, which is a clock, and then you set it to the desired time and date that you want it to run on. So very, very easy. Moving on from there, the battery lasts up to 1.5 hours on this thing, so that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's plenty for a small apartment or a large room. On hard surfaces, it is quieter than the Roomba by far. It is way quieter. The Roomba sounds like, I don't know, a tornado is going off, but the Eufy is very quiet, to the point where I was worried that it wouldn't suck up the cat litter because it was so quiet, but it did. So even though it's quieter, it has the same like suckage power. Don't hate me for saying that word. And it did very well. The pattern was pretty similar to the Roomba as far as how it goes around a room. No qualms there. I didn't have any problems with it. I did test it up against my dishwasher too. My Roomba constantly gets stuck at the dishwasher.
Under the edge of
it
the
is
door.
so annoying. I even stuck a little piece of wood underneath it, and it still finds a way to get stuck. I think this is a little bit shorter because every time it ran under the dishwasher, it just skimmed right under it and it didn't get stuck. So the lip of the dishwasher was just high enough that it was fine. It did a good job.
Is it a Roomba fault or a dishwasher fault?
I would say the dishwasher's probably older than the Roomba, so they didn't know that Roombas were a thing. It understood how to move from a rug to a hardwood floor and back with no problems. On the carpet though, it seemed to have a little bit more issues. It slowed down a bit, and at one point when it was going against that natural grain of the carpet, its butt started bouncing. And it just seemed like it wasn't catching the carpet very well, but when it turned around, it was
like
fine.
porpoising.
Yeah, it was so funny. So I did catch that on camera, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It still managed to suck up dust and litter just fine though on the carpet. And on stairs, there's 11 infrared sensors, which you can see in my B-roll when I was recording it on my stairs. They worked like magic with no problems. It immediately stopped the Eufy RoboVac right on the edge. But luckily the brushes were able to get all the way to the edge.
It looks very perilous as
everything.
it sits there and then it thinks for a second.
It's like,
and then it decides to
no,
pull back.
oh, turn around. Yeah. My Roomba came with virtual wall boxes that are battery powered, and you set those up at door openings to block the Roomba from entering specific rooms. So if you want to focus it on a specific room while you're gone during the day,
or
set up the virtual walls.
Where the dog sleeps.
Yeah, exactly. So you can set it up to do that. The Eufy doesn't have that same thing, so you kind of just leave it there and it does its own thing unless you are sitting at home to manually control it. So if you have an open space, like an open living space, it's going to go wherever the heck it wants. Keep that in mind. Moving on from there, cleaning it is a lot easier and less messy than my Roomba due to its closed hinge compartment. So I will show you what that looks like on here. So on this one, you have this closed hinge. You take it off. What are you running away for? It's not that dusty. See, it looks fairly clean even though I ran this thing all day.
Every so often somebody opens up a vacuum cleaner and everything.
And it goes poof. Yeah, so this thing, everything is stored in this compartment and it's closed off except for this little lip opening right here. But in this case, it held everything inside of here and I had no problems taking it off, which is why I'm not scared to take it off over my laptop, and that's saying something. And then to open it entirely, you would And there's the little bit of dust. You would hold it like that over your trash can and just dump it out, and then the little filters are inside there. And to close it up, you just tightly close it.
Just close it up.
Yeah, and then you stick it right back on. And you can also take off the brushes and clean those as well. Same thing with the brush, the long brush right here. And they're all kind of held in with little plastic jacks that you just push up. Nice. So my entire verdict on this, it's an awesome budget pick for a Robo vacuum. I highly recommend it to anybody looking for a vacuum for hard surfaces, especially like the floors that I had in my room with a rug and everything and cat litter. But it might not do as well on thick carpet, so keep that in mind. Definitely does an amazing job for cleaning and sucking up cat litter or little heavy grains and stuff like that. So if you have those kind of things in your household, you might want to consider getting a robot vacuum so you don't have to deal with that every day. If you guys have questions about this, let me know, or if you're curious about seeing other robot vacuums reviewed. I don't know, I guess I'm kind of down with it because I have a nerd vacuum thing going on.
You can start getting your like Consumer Reports on. You can take like a cup of cat litter and figure out like a way to meticulously and repeatedly spread it across the room and then time the number of minutes it takes.
Oh my gosh, that's way too detailed for me. I'm a normal person. I treat it like a normal thing. I'm not going to go that crazy, but
I didn't feel cat litter when I walked through the room.
Let me know what you guys think. You can email me, ask@tektthing.com, or you can tweet me. I'm @snubs, and you can check this guy out. He's on sale for $186.99 over on Amazon.com. So we'll put that link in the show notes if you want to check it out.
Go forth and be clean. We love your questions, and hey, if you're curious to see us review something here on TekThing, there's a way to make it happen. Ask@tektthing.com. Send us an email, especially if you got a tip or an idea or something you want to share with us. You can also tweet @TekThing, @Snubs, or @Patrick Norton. And if you want to be part of the crew that makes TekThing possible, please contribute to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. Just $1 an episode will make a big difference for us, and you'll get access to our patron-only build videos and so much more. Thank you for your patronage. Do you know we have an audio version for patrons now too? You make the show possible. And if you can't donate, we totally understand. Send in those emails, and if you could spare a moment or two to give our video the thumbs up on YouTube, like our Facebook page, or review TekThing on iTunes, your favorite podcatcher, we would really appreciate it because it all helps. Thank you so much for supporting TekThing, no matter how you do it.
We got an email from Kapil who says, "Hi Patrick and Snubs, love your show. I've been using WD My Cloud for accessing my content at home from everywhere. It's very reliable and worked flawlessly across different platforms. Also, you can stream a big video and don't have to download the video, very important. A new player in the picture is Nextcloud over at nextcloud.com, which allows you to set up your own cloud using a Raspberry Pi, a quite secure and reliable solution. I've used OwnCloud and Nextcloud as a fork of it. We'll try soon and update you guys with Raspberry Pi Zero W. It would be a super cheap headless setup. Keep the good work going. Fan forever from Kapil in Edinburgh." Thank you so much, Kapil. Great message that you sent over. So yeah, owncloud.org. I checked that out several years ago on Hack5. It's pretty cool. It allows you to run your own server for file sharing across multiple different devices. And then you have Nextcloud, which is basically the fork of OwnCloud that the founder created, the founder from OwnCloud. And this one pretty much lets you do the same thing. It's a server, like a file server. If you are serious about running Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi, check out Syncloud. So this is over at syncloud.org. This will offer you Nextcloud or OwnCloud service. It's totally ready for both of those. It's a Linux distro. Along with, you get a custom domain. So it would be yourname.syncloud.it. And that URL handles dynamic DNS if you want to access it from anywhere on the internet. And yeah, it seems pretty cool, but you've actually been messing around with it, right?
Yeah, you can see on the GitHub page, they have support for pretty much all the single board PCs,
cool.
Banana Pi, QB boards, BeagleBones, Raspberry Pis, Odroids, VirtualBox, not all of them, but a whole bunch of them. And it's been interesting to look at to build, right? It's super, super easy, right? And you know, micro SD card in your Raspberry Pi, plug in the power supply. We probably should plug in the Ethernet first. And if you want additional storage other than what's on the micro SD card, you plug in a USB hard drive. Oddly enough, in my first 3 attempts, the USB hard drive has not been, it's been recognized, but it won't access it, because first it told me it was NTFS formatted, then I went and did an extra format for it, like a Linux compatible format, and still not recognizing it. So I'm gonna say, this is a really cool project. It's really slick. It's a little rough around the edges, right? You know, It's cool though, right? Because they're doing distros for all the tiny PCs out there.
Yeah.
And if you go into the website, it's really cool, right? You create your Syncloud URL, and you've
so
got
ours is tekthing.syncloud.it.
I bet you can guess what the password is. There's an app center, and you notice this is one of my kind of issues with a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, it's slow, isn't it?
It's a little.
Is it ever going to load?
Well, it was running just a minute ago, so there we go. So they've got OwnCloud, Nextcloud, Diaspora, if you want to get your sort of open source social on, a mail server, which I'm afraid to run, and a file browser, which is literally browsing the actual Raspberry Pi boot drive.
Okay.
It's a work in project, or I should say it's a work in progress. It's a project in progress. But if you go to the settings, right, I love the how easy they made to turn things on and off. External access here. Basically, if it's off, people can only, and it's off by default, so it is private inside of your own home network. If you want to access it from anywhere on the internet, that's why you have, whatever.syncloud.it, because they handle the dynamic DNS and they locate the server for you. So all you have to do is click on external access. To turn on HTTPS, in theory, everything's automated with Let's Encrypt certificates, and all you have to do is click on HTTPS.
Okay.
That's really, really cool. And
pretty easy.
Yeah, and if you do plan on accessing this externally, you do want to have, you want the HTTPS security.
Yes.
The thing is, HTTPS, or I should say external, won't work unless you have UPnP turned on in your router.
Oh.
I imagine a lot of you don't have UPnP turned on because it's a security issue, which means external access won't work.
Okay, good to know.
They are working on that, and they do have an update planned. It's kind of fun to read through the conversations with the developers as they identify and work through problems, which is one of the cool things I think about GitHub.
Yeah.
But they are working on the process of allowing external access to be useful or usable without UPnP.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully that'll come in the next couple weeks. I had some issues with the HTTPS implementation. Syncloud said they use the Let's Encrypt free SSL certificates.
Yeah.
What's cool, right, is you click a button and HTTPS works.
Yeah.
That part is awesome, but Firefox and Chrome had issues with the certificate, and they gave me the classic this site is insecure and will melt your face. So
what you're saying is you could access the Syncloud server, but you got a red flag whenever you hit it.
Well,
you have
not secure.
The not secure red flag, right?
So I don't know if that's an implementation issue with me or an implementation issue with certificate, and it's an open source project, and it's in development, so I'm digging into it. Are you noticing a theme here versus the Western digital sort of MyCloud system? So this is the basics, and Syncloud's really simple. The apps, you basically install the apps, you launch the apps, and Nextcloud looks exactly like this. And I just, because I'm me, I just opened up a whole bunch of music files, and does a great job of syncing folders. It's slowly populating, several dozen gigabytes of MP3 files. MP3 files. I haven't done an MP3 in 7 years. FLAC files. As far as I can tell, you can't stream media from it. It's download only.
Oh, that's good to know.
It is good to know. One of the things I like, because I was talking about it before with the show, and I was like, so I have a server that I'm going to store stuff on, and I'm going to give a bunch of people in the cloud, I don't know, the location of the server, the password, and the login name. And I was like, so I'm going to give a bunch of strangers a bunch of information. Now, it is external is turned off, so we presume they cannot access it. But my point being is that on one level, this is kind of like VPN, which you have to trust the developers.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, for example, when you set up Nextcloud, it rolls AES 256 encryption into Nextcloud. So, Nextcloud, which is encrypting your stuff inside of Syncloud. So there's layers of security in there. Syncloud and Nextcloud also have mobile apps. I think I paid 99 cents for the iOS application for Nextcloud.
Not bad.
The desktop version I ran is free. I like the idea of this.
Yeah, you seem a little hesitant, I would say.
It's always an act of trust to let strangers on the internet hold your login and password and IP address for a server. It's not like I really worried about Resilio, aka the BitTorrent file syncing tool normally known as BitTorrent Sync, and their system was passing my stuff back and forth. We can argue about which is more robust or not robust on another date. Really though, I think my biggest issue, I would like to run it on something faster than a Raspberry Pi, starting with the Odroid C2, and then take a look at running Nextcloud or OwnCloud on a more full-featured PC.
Yeah, I've seen you running this on the Raspberry Pi, and it's slow.
Well, let's open up this collection of, what do you want? The Avengers, B-52s, Andy DeFranco.
The Avengers.
Me. The Avengers? Good choice. And we're opening the file.
Oh.
I should point out that we are on the same
We're on the same
hardwired
network.
gigabit Ethernet. So, you know, the pace is stately. That's my word this spring for things that are moving.
Are you hardwired right now?
I'm hardwired.
Where?
Oh, this one's well, this one's
is wireless, right?
But I'm running it. I've got 160 gigabits wireless to a hardwired device.
Got it.
So, you know.
Wow, that was pretty slow.
It's pretty slow.
Yeah. Oh well.
I just clicked on it to download a single FLAC file.
We'll probably be waiting here forever for that.
Oh, here we go. Oh, the page finished refreshing.
Oh, finally. Does it let you open it?
I'm just saying.
Okay, so it's a little janky.
It's not, I wouldn't call it janky. I'd say I want more processing power. And I probably don't, you know, I want faster.
Okay.
Camille, it's got potential. You may want something faster than
Ask us in a
Raspberry
year.
Pi. Ask me as soon as I've installed it on something other than a Raspberry Pi. I love Raspberry Pis, but sometimes they're slow.
Yeah, it's true.
But if you're just backing up to it, it may be perfect for you.
All right, so
That's it.
that's it? Okay.
That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Moving on, we got a email from Roderick, who had a suggestion for teaching kids to code. He wrote ask@tektthing.com. Hi, Patrick and Shannon. Regarding TekThing episode 117's discussion of coding tutorials for kids, I just wanted to recommend Khan Academy's computing section. There are lessons on everything from JavaScript to HTML to cryptography. Khan Academy has also partnered with Pixar to produce Pixar in a Box, a series of computer animation tutorials. Also, there's algebra in case your kid doesn't like coding. Keep up the great work, from Roderick.
If you've never been to khanacademy.org, this is just one tiny sampling.
That's great.
It's pretty
It's another
awesome.
option for you. And then
But they have so much awesome here.
they do.
So much science, math by grade.
Oh, that's awesome. I should probably go back and study high school math.
But I mean, look at that.
It's been a while.
Physics, chemistry, OChem, biology, electrical engineering, cosmology and astronomy.
That's awesome.
Art history. If you've never been to Khan Academy, just go check it out.
And Jacob has a suggestion as well on where to start teaching kids to code. He says, hi, Patrick and Shannon. I am a software engineer by profession and have done many hour of code sessions for my children's school STEM classes. And one of the best places for coding information for children starting at age 7 or 8 is coding.org. If starting a little older, at 10 or 11 years old, codecombat.com was a huge hit. Thanks for all that you guys do for the tech community, from Jacob. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Yeah.
Yes, so now everybody has all sorts of amazing options for learning how to code, for kids learning how to code.
I think Code Combat's probably going to go over much better than algebra for my oldest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But algebra is important.
Same with me. And remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog, like print out the Computer Hardware Chart 2.0. This thing is pretty incredible. It is also quite large. There's so many different cool things on here.
This is a 156 megabyte download.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It has... there's ports that I was
so
cheerfully
cool.
thinking I'd never see again in my life.
Okay, I don't feel like this is necessarily analog, but it will stop any geek in their tracks if it's just like hanging on your wall somewhere. So definitely don't hang this in like a hallway, like the hallway we have here. Everybody will stop and stare at it, and you will create a traffic jam.
You won't be able to get to the potty.
And thank you so much to Joe for giving us the heads up on this, because it's really cool. He was a part of our monthly $10 and up patron hangout. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you to all of our patrons that hang out on our Google Hangout every month. So I think that's it.
I'm going to say thank you to all our patrons.
Thank you to all our patrons.
Thank you. I'm Patty Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
Yeah, that's fun times.
So many sockets.
I like looking at computer parts.
I like computers.
I like computers.
I really like it. With all these kind people donating to patreon.com/TekThing because you're feeding my children. Thank you.
Mine too. I don't have any kids.
You're feeding her cats.
Yeah.
If you can't be sympathetic.
That is true.
Oh my goodness. Uh-oh.
Oh, by the way, we should mention, as of like 58 seconds ago, Congress just killed your right to privacy online, according to the Nextweb. So apparently it passed the House.
I'm running a VPN. Are you?
I need to teach my husband how to use a VPN.
VPN on the router.
Yeah. I need to actually like build a router. Get one that's open.
Oh, goodness.
I think the one I have right now is not open.
PF Sense for the win!
Yeah.
See you guys next week. There may be